The Outsiders, Day 9. They moved in a circle under the light, counterclockwise, eyeing each other, sizing each other up, maybe remembering old faults and wondering if they were still there. The rest of us waited with mounting tension. I was reminded of Jack London's books, where the wolf pack waits in silence for one of two members to go down in a fight. But it was different here. The moment either one swung a punch, the rumble would be on. The silence grew heavier, and I could hear the harsh, heavy breathing of the boys around me. Still Derry and the Soch walked slowly in a circle. Even I could feel their hatred. They used to be buddies, I thought. They used to be friends, and now they hate each other because one has to work for a living and the other comes from the west side. They shouldn't hate each other. I don't hate the Soches anymore. They shouldn't hate. "Hold up!" a familiar voice yelled. "Hold it!" Derry turned to see who it was, and Paul swung. A hard right to the jaw that would have felled anyone but Derry. The rumble was on. Dallas Winston ran to join us. I couldn't find a Soch my size, so I took the next best size and jumped on him. Dallas was right beside me, already on top of someone. "I thought you were in the hospital," I yelled as Soch knocked me to the ground and I rolled to avoid getting kicked. I was. Dally was having a hard time because his left arm was still in bad shape. "I ain't now." "How?" I managed to ask as the Soch I was fighting leaped on me and we rolled near Dally. Talked the nurse into it with two-bit switch. "Don't you know a rumble ain't a rumble unless I'm in it?" I couldn't answer because the Soch, who is heavier than I took him for, had me pinned and was slugging the sense out of me. I thought dizzily that he was going to knock some of my teeth loose or break my nose or something, and I knew I didn't have a chance. But Derry was keeping an eye out for me. He caught that guy by the shoulder and half lifted him up before knocking him 3 feet with a sledgehammer blow. I decided it would be fair for me to help Dally, since he could only use one arm. They were slugging it out, but Dallas was getting the worst of it, so I jumped on the Soch's back, pulling his hair and pounding him. He reached back and caught me by the neck and threw me over his head to the ground. Tim Shepard, who was fighting two at once, accidentally stepped on me, knocking my breath out. I was up again as soon as I got my wind and jumped right back on the Soch, trying my best to strangle him. While he was prying my fingers loose, Dally knocked him backward, so that all three of us rolled on the ground, gasping, cussing, and punching. Somebody kicked me hard in the ribs, and I yelped in spite of myself. Some Soch had knocked out one of our bunch and was kicking me as hard as he could, but I had both arms wrapped around the other Soch's neck and refused to let go. Dally was slugging him, and I hung on desperately, although that other Soch was kicking me, and you'd better believe it hurt. Finally, he kicked me in the head so hard it stunned me, and I lay limp, trying to clear my mind and keep from blacking out. I could hear the racket, but only dimly through the buzzing in my ears. Numerous bruises along my back and on my face were throbbing, but I felt detached from the pain, as if it wasn't really me feeling it. "They're running," I heard a voice yell joyfully. "Look at the dirty run." It seemed to me that the voice belonged to Two-Bit, but I couldn't be sure. I tried to sit up and saw that the Soches were getting into their cars and leaving. Tim Shepard was swearing blue and green because his nose was broken again, and the leader of the Brumley boys was working over one of his own men because he had broken the rules and used a piece of pipe in the fighting. Steve lay doubled up and groaning from about 10 feet from me. We found out later he had 3 broken ribs. Soda Pop was beside him, talking in a low, steady voice. I did a double take when I saw Two-Bit. Blood was streaming down one side of his face, and one hand was busted wide open, but he was grinning happily because the Soches were running. "We won," Derry announced in a tired voice. He was going to have a black eye, and there was a cut across his forehead. "We beat the Soches." Dally stood beside me quietly for a minute, trying to grasp the fact that we had really beaten the Soches. Then grabbing my shirt, he hauled me to my feet. "Come on." He half-dragged me down the street. "We're going to see Johnny." I tried to run, but stumbled, and Dally impatiently shoved me along. "Hurry, he was getting worse when I left. He wants to see you." I don't know how Dallas could travel so fast and hard after being knocked around and having his sore arm hurt some more, but I tried to keep up with him. Track wasn't ever like the running I did that night. I was still dizzy and had only a dim realization of where I was going and why. Dally had Buck Merrill's T-Bird parked in front of our house, and we hopped into it. I sat tight as Dally roared the car down the street. We were on 10th when a siren came on behind us. I saw the reflection of the red light flashing in the windshield. "Look sick," Dally commanded. "I'll say I'm taking you to the hospital," which would be truth enough. I leaned against the cold glass in the window and tried to look sick, which wasn't too hard, feeling the way I did right then. The policeman looked disgusted. "All right, buddy, where's the fire?" "The kid," Dally jerked a thumb toward me. "He fell over on his motorcycle, and I'm taking him to the hospital." I groaned, and it wasn't all fake out. I guess I looked pretty bad, too, being cut and bruised like I was. The fuzz changed his tone. Is he real bad? Do you need an escort? How would I know if he's bad or not? I ain't no doc. Yeah, we could use an escort. And as the policeman got back into his car, I heard Dally hiss, "Sucker." With the siren ahead of us, we made record time getting to the hospital. All the way there, Dally kept talking and talking about something, but I was too dizzy to make most of it out. I was crazy, you know that, kid? Crazy for wanting Johnny to stay out of trouble, for not wanting him to get hard. If he'd been like me, he'd never have been in this mess. If he got smart like me, he'd never have to run into that church. That's what you get for helping people. Editorials in the paper and a lot of trouble. You'd better wise up, Pony. You get tough like me and you don't get hurt. You look out for yourself and nothing can touch you. He said a lot more stuff, but I didn't get it at all. I had a stupid feeling that Dally was out of his mind, the way he kept raving on and on, because Dallas never talked like that. But I think now I would have understood if I hadn't been sick at the time. The cop left us at the hospital as Dally pretended to help me out of the car. The minute the cop was gone, Dally let go of me so quick I almost fell. Hurry! We ran through the lobby and crowded past people into the elevator. Several people yelled at us, I think because we were pretty wrapped up looking, but Dally had nothing on his mind except Johnny, and I was too mixed up to know anything but that I had to follow Dally. When we finally got to Johnny's room, the doctor stopped us. I'm sorry, boys, but he's dying. We gotta see him, Dally said, and flicked out 2-bit switchblade. His voice was shaking. We're gonna see him. If you give me any static, you'll end up on your own operating table. The doctor didn't bat an eye. You could see him. But it's because you're his friends, not because of that knife. Dally looked at him for a second, then put the knife back in his pocket. We both went into Johnny's room, standing there for a second, getting our breath back in heavy gulps. It was awful quiet. It was scary quiet. I looked at Johnny. He was very still, and for a moment I thought in agony, he's dead already. We're too late. Dally swallowed, wiping the sweat off his upper lip. Johnny Cake, he said in a hoarse voice. Johnny? Johnny stirred weakly, then opened his eyes. Hey, he said, he managed softly. We won, Dally panted. We beat the Socials. We stopped them, chased them out of our territory. Johnny didn't even try to grin at him. Useless. Fighting's no good. He was awful white. Dally licked his lips nervously. They're still writing editorials about you in the paper, for being a hero and all. He was talking too fast and too calmly. Yeah, they're calling you a hero now and heroizing all the greasers. We are all proud of you, buddy. Johnny's eyes glowed. Dally was proud of him. That was all Johnny had ever wanted. Pony boy, I barely heard him. I came closer and leaned over to hear what he was going to say. Stay gold, Pony boy, stay gold. The pillow seemed to sink a little, and Johnny died. You read about people looking peacefully asleep when they're dead, but they don't. Johnny just looked dead, like a candle with the flame gone. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Dally swallowed and reached over to push Johnny's hair back. Never could keep that hair back. That's what you get for trying to help people, you little punk. That's what you get. Whirling suddenly, he slammed back against the wall. His face contracted in agony, and sweat streamed down his face. Dang it, Johnny, he begged, slamming one fist against the wall, hammering it to make it obey his will. Oh, dang it, Johnny, don't die. Please don't die. He suddenly bolted through the door and down the hall. Chapter 10. I walked down the hall in a daze. Dally had taken the car, and I started the long walk home in a stupor. Johnny was dead, but he wasn't. That still body back in the hospital wasn't Johnny. Johnny was somewhere else, maybe asleep in the lot, or playing the pinball machine in the bowling alley, or sitting on the back steps of the church in Windricksville. I'd go home and walk by the lot, and Johnny would be sitting on the curb smoking a cigarette, and maybe we'd lie on our backs and watch the stars. He isn't dead, I said to myself. He isn't dead. And this time, my dreaming worked. I convinced myself that he wasn't dead. I must have wandered around for hours, sometimes even out into the street, getting honked at and cussed out. I must have stumbled around all night except for a man who asked me if I wanted a ride. Huh? Oh yeah, I guess so, I said. I got in. The man, who was in his mid-20s, looked at me. Are you all right, kid? You look like you've been in a fight. I have been. A rumble. I'm okay. Johnny's not dead, I told myself, and I believed it. Hate to tell you this, kiddo, the guy said dryly, but you're bleeding all over my car seats. I blinked. I am? Your head. I reached up to scratch the side of my head where it had been itching for a while, and when I looked at my hand, it was smeared with blood. Gosh, mister, I'm sorry. I said, dumbfounded. Don't worry about it. This wreck's been through worse. What's your address? I'm not about to dump a hurt kid out on the streets this time of night. I told him. He drove me to my house, and I got out. Thanks a lot. What was left of our gang was in the living room. Steve was stretched out on the sofa, his shirt unbuttoned and his side bandaged. His eyes were closed, but when the door shut behind me, he opened them, and I suddenly wondered if my own eyes looked as feverish and bewildered as his. Soda had a wide cut on his lip and a bruise across his cheek. There was a Band-Aid over Derry's forehead, and he had a black eye. One side of Two-Bit's face was taped up. I found out later he had 4 stitches in his cheek and 7 in his hand, where he had busted his knuckles open over Socha's head. They were lounging around, reading the paper and smoking. Where's the party? I thought dully. Weren't Soda and Steve planning a party after the rumble? They all looked up when I walked in. Derry leaped to his feet. Where have you been? Oh, don't start that again, I thought. He stopped suddenly. Pony boy, what's the matter? I looked at all of them, a little frightened. Johnny. He's dead. My voice sounded strange, even to me. But he's not dead, a voice in my head said. We told him about beating the Sochas, and, I don't know, he just died. He told me to stay gold, I remembered. What was he talking about? There was a stricken silence. I don't think any of us had realized how bad off Johnny really had been. Soda made a funny noise and looked like he was going to start crying. Two-Bit's eyes were closed and his teeth were clenched, and I suddenly remembered Dally pounding on the wall. Dallas is gone, I said. He ran out like the devil was after him. He's gonna blow up. He couldn't take it. How can I take it? I wondered. Dally is tougher than I am. Why can I take it when Dally can't? And then I knew. Johnny was the only thing Dally loved, and now Johnny was gone. So we finally broke. Two-Bit spoke everyone's feelings. So even Dally has a breaking point. I started shaking. Derry said something in a low voice to Soda. Pony boy, Soda said softly, like he was talking to an injured animal. You look sick. Sit down. I backed up, just like a frightened animal, shaking my head. I'm okay. I felt sick. I felt as if any minute I was going to fall flat on my face, but I shook my head. I don't want to sit down. Derry took a step toward me, but I backed away. Don't touch me, I said. My heart was pounding in slow thumps, throbbing at the side of my head, and I wondered if everyone else could hear it. Maybe that's why they're all looking at me, I thought. They can hear my heart beating. The phone rang, and after a moment's hesitation, Derry turned from me to it. He said, hello, and then listened. He hung up quickly. It was Dally. He phoned from a booth. He's just robbed a grocery store, and the cops are after him. We gotta hide him. He'll be at the lot in a minute. We all left the house at a dead run, even Steve, and I wondered vaguely why no one was doing somersaults off the steps this time. Things were sliding in and out of focus, and it seemed funny to me that I couldn't run in a straight line. We reached the vacant lot just as Dally came in, running as hard as he could from the opposite direction. The wail of a siren grew louder, and then a police car pulled up across the street from the lot. Doors slammed as the policeman leaped down. Dally had reached the circle of light under the street lamp, and skidding to a halt, he turned and jerked a black object from his waistband. I remembered his voice. I've been carrying a heater. It ain't loaded, but it sure does help bluff. It was only yesterday that Dally had told Johnny and me that. But yesterday was years ago, a lifetime ago. Dally raised the gun, and I thought, you blasted fool, they don't know you're only bluffing. And even as the policeman's guns spit fire into the night, I knew that was what Dally wanted. He was jerked half around by the impact of the bullets, then slowly crumpled with a look of grim triumph on his face. He was dead before he hit the ground. But I knew that was what he wanted. Even as the lot echoed with the cracks of shots, even as I begged silently, please, not him and Johnny both. I knew he would be dead, because Dally Winston wanted to be dead, and he always got what he wanted. Nobody would write editorials praising Dally. 2 friends of mine had died that night, one a hero, the other a hoodlum. But I remembered Dally pulling Johnny through the window of the burning church, Dally giving us his gun, although it could mean jail for him, Dally risking his life for us, trying to keep Johnny out of trouble. And now he was dead, a dead juvenile, delinquent, and there wouldn't be any editorials in his favor. Dally didn't die a hero. He died violent and young and desperate, just like we all knew he'd die someday. Just like Tim Shepard and Curly Shepard and the Brumley boys and the other guys we knew would die someday. But Johnny was right. He died gallant. Steve stumbled forward with a sob, but Soda caught him by the shoulders. Easy, buddy, easy, I heard him say softly. There's nothing we can do now. Nothing we can do, not for Dally, or Johnny, or Tim Shepard, or any of us. My stomach gave a violent start and turned into a hunk of ice. The world was spinning around me, and blobs of faces and visions of things past were dancing in the red mist that covered the lot. It swirled into a mass of colors, and I felt myself swaying on my feet. Someone cried, "Glory, look at the kid!" And the ground rushed up to meet me very suddenly. When I woke up, it was light. It was awfully quiet, too quiet. I mean, our house just isn't naturally quiet. The radio's usually going full blast, and the TV's turned up loud, and people are wrestling and knocking over lamps and tripping over the coffee table and yelling at each other. Something was wrong, but I couldn't quite figure it out. Something had happened. I couldn't remember what. I blinked at Soda bewilderedly. He was sitting on the edge of the bed watching me. "Soda," my voice sounded weak and hoarse. "Is somebody sick?" "Yeah," his voice was oddly gentle. "Go back to sleep now." An idea was slowly dawning on me. "Am I sick?" He stroked my hair. "Yeah, you're sick. Now be quiet." I had one more question. I was still kind of mixed up. "Is Derry sorry I'm sick?" I had a funny feeling that Derry was sad because I was sick. Everything seemed vague and hazy. Soda gave me a funny look. He was quiet for a moment. "Yeah, he's sorry you're sick. Now please, shut up, will you, honey? Go back to sleep." I closed my eyes. I was awful tired. When I woke up next, it was daylight, and I was hot under all the blankets on me. I was thirsty and hungry, but my stomach was so uneasy I knew I wouldn't be able to hold anything down. Derry had pulled the armchair into the bedroom and was asleep in it. He should be at work, I thought. Why is he asleep in the armchair? "Hey, Derry," I said softly, shaking his knee. "Hey, Derry, wake up." He opened his eyes. "Pony boy, you okay?" "Yeah," I said, "I think so." Something had happened, but I still couldn't remember it, although I was thinking a lot clearer than I was the last time I had waked up. He sighed in relief and pushed my hair back. "Gosh, kid, you had us scared to death." "What was the matter with me?" He shook his head. "I told you you were in no condition for a rumble. Exhaustion, shock, minor concussion, and Tuvek came blubbering over here with some tale about how you were running a fever before the rumble and how it was all his fault you were sick. He was pretty torn up that night," Derry said. He was quiet for a minute. "We all were." And then I remembered Dallas and Johnny were dead. Don't think of them, I thought. Don't remember how Johnny was your buddy. Don't remember that he didn't want to die. Don't think of Dally breaking up in the hospital, crumpling under the streetlight. Try to think that Johnny is better off now. Try to remember that Dally would have ended up like that sooner or later. Best of all, don't think. Blank your mind. Don't remember. Don't remember. "Where'd I get a concussion?" I said. My head itched, but I couldn't scratch it for the bandage. "How long have I been asleep?" "You got a concussion from getting kicked in the head." Soda saw. He landed all over that Soch. I've never seen him so mad. I think he could have whipped anyone in the state he was in. Today's Tuesday, and you've been asleep and delirious since Saturday night. Don't you remember?" "No," I said slowly. "Derry, I'm not ever going to be able to make up the school I missed. And I've still got to go to court and talk to the police about Bob's getting killed. And now, with Dally," I took a deep breath. "Derry, you think they'll split us up, put me in a home or something?" He was silent. "I don't know, maybe. I just don't know." I stared at the ceiling. What would it be like, I wondered, staring at a different ceiling? What would it be like in a different bed, in a different room? There was a hard, painful lump in my throat and I couldn't swallow. "Don't you even remember being in the hospital?" Derry asked. He was trying to change the subject. I shook my head. "I don't remember." "You kept asking for me and Soda, sometimes for Mom and Dad too, but mostly for Soda." Something in his tone of voice made me look at him. Mostly for Soda. Did I ask for Derry at all? Or was he just saying that? "Derry," I didn't know quite what I wanted to say, but I had a sick feeling that maybe I hadn't called for him while I was delirious. Maybe I had only wanted Soda Pop to be with me. What all I had said while I was sick. I couldn't remember. I didn't want to remember. "Johnny left you his copy of Gone with the Wind. Told the nurse he wanted you to have it." He looked at the paperback lying on the table. I didn't want to finish it. I'd never get past the part where the Southern gentlemen go riding into sure death because they are gallant. Southern gentlemen with big black eyes and blue jeans and T-shirts. Southern gentlemen crumpling under streetlights. Don't remember. Don't try to decide which one died gallant. Don't remember. "Where's Soda?" I asked, and then I could have kicked myself. "Why can't you talk to Derry, you idiot?" I said to myself. Why do you feel uncomfortable talking to Derry? Asleep, I hope. I thought he was going to sleep shaving this morning and cut his throat. I had to push him to bed, but he was out like a light in a second. Derry's hopes that Soda was asleep were immediately ruined because he came running in, clad only in a pair of blue jeans. "Hey, pony boy!" he yelped and leaped for me, but Derry caught him. "No rough stuff, little buddy." So Soda had to content himself with bouncing up and down on the bed and pounding on my shoulder. "Gosh, but were you sick? You feel okay now?" "I'm okay, just a little hungry." "I should think you would be," Derry said. "You wouldn't eat anything most of the time you were sick. How'd you like some mushroom soup?" I suddenly realized just how empty I was. Man, I'd like that just fine. I'll go make some, so Pop, take it easy with him, okay? Soda looked back at him indignantly. You'd think I was going to challenge him to a track meet or something right off the bat. Oh no, I go, track meet. I guess this just about puts me out of every race. I won't be back in condition for the meets, and the coach was counting on me. Golly, there's always next year, Soda said. Soda never has grasped the importance Gary and I put on athletics. Like he never has understood why we went all out for studying. Don't sweat it about some track meet. Soda, I said suddenly. What all did I say while I was delirious? Oh, you thought you were in Windexville most of the time. Then you kept saying that Johnny didn't mean to kill that Soch. Hey, I didn't know you didn't like bologna. I went cold. I don't like it. I never liked it. Soda just looked at me. You used to eat it. That's why you wouldn't eat anything while you were sick. You kept saying you didn't like bologna, no matter what it was we were trying to get you to eat. I don't like it, I repeated. Soda, did I ask for dairy while I was sick? Yeah, sure, he said, looking at me strangely. You asked for him and me both, sometimes Mom and Dad, and for Johnny. Oh, I thought maybe I didn't ask for dairy. It was bugging me. Soda grinned. Well, you did, so don't worry. We stayed with you so much that the doctor told us we were going to end up in the hospital ourselves if we didn't get some sleep. But we didn't get any anyway. I took a good look at him. He looked completely worn out. There were circles under his eyes, and he had a tense, tired look to him. Yet his dark eyes were still laughing and carefree and reckless. You look beat, I said frankly. I bet you ain't had 3 hours sleep since Saturday night. He grinned, but didn't deny it. Scoot over. He crawled over me and flopped down, and before Derry came back in with the soup, we were both asleep.